Timelines interview, but it's good. It's up for podcast for the Real Estate Agent Show, which you'll find on iTunes under Real Estate Agent Podcast. And also, this is sponsored by mail-right.com, which is Jonathan's SaaS product. So I'm going to start doing that. I like to go back and do post-production. It's a lot easier. But for the YouTube folks right now, we have Preston Zeller from Vancouver, Washington, who's a real estate. Are you an agent broker up there?
There's no real differentiation up here. You get your license, you're a broker, and you're either a managing broker or managing designated or just broker. So
it's neat to know the differences. Yeah, we're licensed in 2 states, and there's definitely differences. We have Greg McDaniel back from McDaniel Callahan Group. Greg, what's up?
Hey, what up?
So I'm going to do a pause real fast. We have Jonathan, of course, Mail-Right, myself from. I have so many websites. I could be so many different places. In California, we're First Realty. Here, my wife works for Chase and Reno, which I really appreciate the referrals that we've got from the show and other places. Today is a good real estate day for us. It was really good. It's sort of like it rains, it pours. We have it's good. My wife's at a listing right now, and she got a call for another $1 million listing, earlier today. And it was off the podcast, which I thought was kind of cool. So that's kind of nice. And so with that, we're going to take a quick break, and I will redo the intro for the podcast, and we'll just come right into it and say, so we're going to talk about pictures, right? We're going to talk about photos for the first 8 minutes. And then sometimes on our guest, Preston, we talk about your life and your background a little bit, second part. And then finally, on the third part, we'll talk about how we can get a hold of you, the other people for referrals up in your areas, as well as any kind of commercial. And one last question from Jonathan. Does that sound good?
Excellent. Yeah.
So we're going to go right to the show, everybody. And if you could just make sure you pause out. Okay, here's the podcast. Preston, Jonathan, and Greg. Hey, we are up for another real estate discussion today for the podcast, and it's just a wonderful time. Preston, of course, you're our guest today, so we'll let you go first. From how is it up in the great state of Washington? You're in Vancouver, right?
Vancouver, yep. I'm just right over the Columbia River from Portland. So, yeah, I'm basically Portland metro area. Yeah.
Okay, very good. You have a license in 2 states then?
I'm not duly licensed. That's kind of a interesting conundrum, I guess, you come across as to whether or not you feel like you want to farm both the Portland main area and up here. So I find it more effective just to stay up here. If you have a team of 10 people and you can work Portland, then great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm just in Washington. So
before we go on our main topic, which is going to be about photos and stuff, Jonathan, but I just back you up. We're licensed. My wife is licensed in 2 states. We have a real estate company in both. It gets very, very expensive to be in 2 states. I'm only licensed in California. Very expensive. So you really should focus in one area and do it well.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
All right, then, Preston. So we're going to talk about personal branding and the balance between what an agent needs to do, even if they're under the stewardship of a broker, and what the balance is. So you wrote this great article in England about the science of personal photography, and having a good photo of yourself and the right one is rather important. Would you like to tell us some more about that? I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, sure. So, kind of backing up a little bit before real estate, I've used a headshot for a variety of reasons before. I was, pretty big into music in college in terms of performing music. And anyone that's ever had a favorite musician, their face, unless there's some of these artists that like to hide behind a mask or something. But for the most part, the photography is pretty important. So, I kind of got that drilled into me early on. And as I got more into the, really nuts and bolts marketing and then inbound marketing and just where marketing is at today, I'm like, there's got to be some data behind what makes a good photo. And of course there is, but what does that look like? And, how can you successfully integrate that in a really just straightforward way into your photo as an agent? So, coming over from the marketing world and just straight marketing, I really wanted to take my headshot to the next level. I'd written stuff before for mainly revolving around, purely marketing based materials for the chamber, for a blog, that kind of stuff. And I guess I didn't put as much credence in a headshot as I should. Now, that being said, again, coming into real estate, the one thing I've always noticed is that, you know, a lot of people's real estate pictures, sort of like driver's licenses, they're outdated. You know, they're just, you know, sticking with whatever picture they took, and it's really an afterthought. Now, if you look at branding, it's as in terms of what branding is and how it drives everything that you create as an agent and being a part of the bigger brokerage. That's really the foundation of who you are and the impression people get of you. And so I made it a point to, you know, redo my headshots because I had gone through Photo Feeler kind of after the fact about a year ago on some old headshots. And I was hitting like mid-50s. And, you know, for those who don't know, and I kind of summarize it in my article, Photo Feeler and the data they have in combination with a study by University of New York, you know, basically have statistical data about what makes someone respond positively to a photo of you. So I went about to essentially try out a number of different poses when I did my headshots and test them out. You know, so I tested out, I believe about 5 or 6 different poses. I have it up on my article here. So yeah, 5 different poses, and you know, got a very broad array of what people were essentially how they were responding to my photo. And I took basically the best one, and I reframed it. Something as simple as that. I was already getting some pretty positive scores. Reframed it, tested it again. My scores went up dramatically. So in two of the main categories, and there's 3 categories: competence, likability, and influential. 2 of the categories shot up to 90 percentile. You know, in the 90s, and
Wow.
and then the mid 80s. So I was 84% competent. 95% likable, 93% influential. And I can tell you that my competence didn't hit the 90s because I had a laughing smile. Just weird psychologically how that works. So anyways, after going through this, I thought it really pertinent to just write about it. You know, that's like, you know, if you're a writer, you like just journaling, whatever, you want to express, okay, what's something that's strong on the top of mind? And for me in business and looking at real estate, I'm like, more agents need to pay a lot more attention to this, I feel as though, because it's just going to give you that much more credibility when they look at your photo. They have a good psychological response to you, and they see you in person and go, that's the guy in the picture.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I got to be honest, Preston. When I initially scanned the article, I thought, oh, it's another article about photography. But then when I really read it, it's actually a really cool article that really brought something really original to the table, because it's something you really don't think about a lot. But when you do think about it, you really should, especially if you're in real estate, really, really think about it, because it's going to be one of the main factors. People are going to make that instant decision to read the other materials, aren't they?
Yeah, well, you know, if you think about too, I mean, most people, I think when they go to get their headshots done, they probably get some quotes, maybe some referrals from friends, and they'll get anywhere from, you know, your friend who just happens to do some photography on the side and, you know, charges $100, say $50, $100. And then you get anywhere from, you know, people trying to go $250 to $500. Maybe you're talking to someone who does celebrity photos and you want to get really glammed up. You do high-end homes, they're $1,000. But, you know, it ranges. But let's say on average, it's probably $100 to $300. Now, what happens in there is I think you take into consideration, I have all these other marketing expenses. I don't want to blow too much on my headshots. And it's kind of this like missing the forest for the trees. You're so caught up in this one detail of how much a headshot costs that you're missing the major point that the $200 investment in your headshots is going to go into 2 years and $20,000, $30,000, whatever number your marketing expense is, it's going to go into that. And if you have a bad headshot, you're basically going to be spending a lot of money on a foundation that is kind of cracky,
Yes. Before we go into our first break, Preston, I just got a quick question. The only thing I didn't see in the article, was there any information about wearing glasses? Should you take them off or should you keep them on? Was there anything in it, or did I miss it?
Yeah, it's okay. It was actually the first point. That's okay. So yeah, eye obstruction was a big deal. In fact, sunglasses certainly big no. I mean,
that's what I got so I misread it, and also they had the thing about not having the bunny eyes. You want to squint them a little bit, and then you've got those big wide eyes. That doesn't go down too well, does it?
Yeah, well, wide eyes conveys a sense of fear. Like you're not confident. You're not being relaxed. And let's face it, if you're talking to someone, you want them to feel relaxed. If they look tense or they look off-putting, it's just it's not the best. But to your question about glasses, if you're wearing glasses like you are for vision, that's a little different. And the main point there is, make sure that your lenses are clear, and make sure that if you're taking kind of an angled photo, that your frame isn't blocking your eyes and you can still see those well. And that's a good point.
That's great point. So I think we're going to go to the break, and between the break, I'll clean my glasses, Preston. We're going for our break, folks.
All right.
Oh, so folks, we're coming off the break. So, Preston, I think another really interesting area would be the balance between broker and agent around branding, because I think it's really important that agent have their own personal brand. But how do you effectively combine that with what the brokerage wants to do? Got any insights and thoughts about that?
Sure. So I've done this at 2 different brokerages, and they both had a slightly different outlook on it, and I actually had a different approach depending on how solid their branding was. And to be clear, both of these were non-national brokerages; they were boutique brokerages. I think one of the most important things is to identify, and this is just like branding 101 in general. What are your values? What are your values as a broker? And it's it doesn't need to be super complex, or if yours is like you're a funny person, you like humor to break the ice, so humor is one of those. You want to bring in, just other values that make you who you are. That's great. Identify those, but then make sure that the brokerage you're with, they have someone that you can go to on a local level who can help you merge your values with the brokerage's values to come up with something that is going to serve not just the brokerage, because you want to maintain the integrity of the brokerage, but serve as well what you bring to the table and what makes you different from anyone else in your brokerage.
That's great, Preston. I totally agree with you that, the marketing, the branding's got to fit in with the personality of the brokerage and the personality of the agent. But have you got any other thoughts about this that come to you when you were explaining that, Preston?
Yeah, sure. So one of the other things is looking at what kind of niche you serve. And, a great example of this is actually, I'm going to pull from someone else within my brokerage. So this guy happens to specialize in cars with big garages. And I mean, and I saw it, I'm like, that is just so smart, because he happens to be very involved in a luxury car club for Ferraris. So he is tapped into a market of people who they own multiple cars, they work on cars, something where they need an excellent space. So he really caters to the market of people who are looking for not just a nice home, but they're looking for a garage that is they can play with their toys. And so everything he does marketing wise rolls into that niche, and his logo revolves around it. He has a red Ferrari that he puts in every single photo, and it's kind of like trademark of his. I mean, he's usually marketing high-end homes. But everything, so he worked with the brokerage to be like, this is a combination of my hobbies, my passions, but also my profession, and how they all merge together in this niche that I've created for myself. How can we up-level my branding, even down to like a behind-the-scenes video that he did where it's still the brokerage, the brokerage is supporting this brand, but it's like, brokerage here and then agent here with his niche. And when the two support each other mutually, I think that's where you get good synergy, as opposed to, maybe a brokerage saying, no, this is the only logo you can use. This is the only branding you can use. So you're going to go that route of really kind of like stepping outside of the box of just this national brokerage's name or whatever, maybe local brokerage, do it and really give a lot of attention and pause to, again, what your values are and how you can kind of merge the two together so that, say you do change brokerages, you haven't changed and you can still kind of adapt that to the next place you go. And that's the biggie. So.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Preston. Hey, Craig, have you got anything you would like to ask Preston around this?
Well, I got lots of things I want to ask Preston.
Let's do one quickie, and then we can ask Preston how we can get hold of him, and then we can go on the discussion on the YouTube side.
Sure. So, Preston, like we were talking about on the break, when it comes to when should you update your photos, like we were joking, the 80s called and they want those shots back, the glitter shots or glam shots, whatever. When is, and this actually pertains to me and my team, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We have a 16-year-old photo. My father and my business partner are like Ken dolls. They never age. Unfortunately, I'm the one that looks like a 16-year-old child. So we've been talking about updating it, but it is our brand. Okay, we're the three guys in blue shirts. So what would be your recommendation to maybe a team or someone that might be in my position that is their brand? And it is three of us, not one of us. And it's just, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think for one is what look do you maintain consistently?
A good one.
I don't really know what to say about that.
Excellent answer.
I could be very cruel, but
I know. For me, one is my beard. Right? Yeah. I don't really trim or shave this too much of a difference because obviously with facial hair, right? I mean, for a guy, you shave it off, I could be unrecognizable. Yeah. And so I made sure that in my photos, my beard was actually a level that was kind of the median of long and short, so it's going to be most relatable. But so if you're a guy, right, like you got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow going, is that a norm for you? Do you like keeping some scruff? So use that scruff in your picture. Same thing with your hair. How do you usually do your hair when you see clients?
It's slicked back now, but I got a haircut. I had a mane instead of had a hair earlier today.
Right. So a haircut is another big one. And, usually for women, this is a bigger deal because their hair can vary so much more, right? A guy's hair is staying in a certain realm. So, your hair, keep your hair a certain style for a while. If you happen to dye it a certain color or whatever, take that into consideration. But, going back to, I guess, you guys you got the blue shirts, right? Mm-hmm. And you got kind of an older photo. I think something that would make you more relatable is to be in an environment that actually fits with, it's just more organic. It fits with who you are. I mean, three guys in front of a white backdrop, it feels a little sterile and, a little less relatable, too staged. And so, even if it's in a nice living room, if it's on the patio with the backdrop is like trees because your area has lots of trees, something along those lines, and then making sure all the colors jive together. And that's where, like, if you see in my photo, I'm wearing, dark blue shirt with a gray jacket, and the colors generally, they work together. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing to take into consideration. clothing wise, and I'll just say this last point, in the research they found, they're like traditional formal wear received the best results in terms of how people responded. That being said, not everyone's going to be wearing a black and white suit or a woman wearing a black dress or, whatever that kind of formal wear is. So you got to still work in your personality. It's not just about the numbers per se. If you're in the 90s, great. If you're like, I got to get to 99 from 91, I mean, let's still keep who you are. Are you wearing black and white suits to see everyone? Probably not. Kudos to you if you are. But I mean, I'm actually wearing the same shirt right now that's in my photo, and that's just because I have certain things that I like to wear and that fit me. So
that's great, Preston, and thanks for the question, Craig.
Thanks.
So we're going to wrap up the iTunes part of the show and go on to the YouTube, and we're going to have some more. But before we do that, Preston, how can people get hold of you?
You have to hold a second. Let me recut that. Okay. Let me just take it real fast. Just come back in and just say a couple seconds. Hey, say we're going to go to our third part, but we still got to get into your life and success principles, and I'll hit that at the start. So you say, hey, we got to go to a break, but we're going to come back to your life and success principles, and then just say, and how can our listeners help you, or something like that. So a couple seconds of silence. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, great. We're coming back, folks. So, Preston, we're going to go into some of your life and success principles, and then we're going to ask you how people can get hold of you.
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, Preston, this is also for timelines. Actually, we have 2 RSS feeds, so it goes out on both the real estate. Actually, real estate has a separate track on an RSS feed. And then for folks out there, it's on a daily show that comes up on some general ones. And that really helps build our other shows, by the way. We put this on a daily repeating show because it gets a little crossover from different people. Somebody may not even be in real estate, but they might think about it after this, or they apply some of these principles of pictures to their business too. These are universal discussions about pictures. But your life and success principles are running a little short, so I'm just going to read all 3 of them just to let you comment, and then we'll come back to your market, what we can do for you. So what you said was set goals and time management, take care of yourself, and have a hobby. So if you could just go over those, and we'll come to so if you could just go over those, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. So the first one, reviewing the goals and daily time habits. I have an app on Mac that's a great source for me. It's called Momentum. And I basically, am able to be reminded throughout the day, hey, am I, setting goals for the next day? Am I keeping myself on track? Am I staying focused? I even have one for laughing it off, because there's going to be people that piss you off, and you got to laugh it off. You can't let it affect you. So I mean, that's a daily goal for me. Yours might be whatever they are, but just keeping track of that. Taking care of yourself. One of those things I do. I have a young family, so I take Saturdays off. That's controversial for people in real estate, but if I really have something I need to do, I have enough brokers where I can be like, hey, can you do me a favor and take care of this for me? Or if it's something bigger, I work out a deal with them. But that allows me to maintain that balance there. And then the third one, have a hobby. Do something that is outside of work, outside of your home life, that you have an outlet that isn't tied to just income, and it isn't tied to just what you do, the 75% of your waking life. And that for me is woodworking, and it gives me a cool topic to talk about with clients. So
that's very good. So going on, how can the listener get a hold of you? And then what can we do for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a website where I blog at, and that is just PrestonZeller.com. And on there, you can basically see all my info. broker@PrestonZeller.com is my email. And then phone number is just 360-888-9545. And, the best way any kind of viewer can help me out is if you know someone who's relocating to Clark County, Washington, that's Vancouver, Camas, Washougal, surrounding areas, or someone who's just looking to move within the territory, please, I would very much appreciate you gave me my contact information. Have them check me out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have on this area and, their thoughts about moving. So.
Okay. For the one last question, Greg, you get to pick that up. So what's your question for Preston?
Hey, Preston, I know that a lot of agents, when they're getting started, they probably go out and get maybe a Facebook or a LinkedIn, or they have someone just take a quick snapshot. But what's a common problem that you're seeing after doing your research that you can advise people away from so that they'll be more likable, more professional, people will want to do business with them just by looking at their photo?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you. That's a great question. I think the biggest thing, and this is a little bit of a two-part answer, again, identifying what you stand for and what your values are, not letting that be dictated by the people or the brokerage, but who you are, who's true to you, and then going with the brokerage that is going to support that. Because if they just want to trample on your ideas for who you are, that's not a good place to be. You got to be with somewhere that is going to support you. So vet that out. Don't just go for brand name or recognition, but somewhere it's going to grow you and your brand and allow you to do that for them as well. So
I agree 100%. You got to go with the culture and the vibe and the feel and everything else that's going to blend with you and allow you to grow and nurture you as a human with the direction you want to go in the business. I agree.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, Greg. Well, we're going to wrap it up for the iTunes part, the podcast part of the show, folks, but we'll be continuing the discussion with Preston on our iTunes, our YouTube part of the show. But thanks, Preston, for this part of the show. I think you've given some great insights, and it's been a fascinating subject that a lot of agents really don't think about, do they, Preston?
No, they don't. Thank you guys very much for having me on this section of the show, and just look forward to talking a bit more about it.
Thanks.
Yay, the podcast portion's all over. It's kind of weird. Sometimes it varies, so you hit weird days, and today was one of those weird days, but it's going to come out nice. And it'll be up tonight late.
Bill does an excellent job of the engineering, Preston, and he really does spend a lot of time on the quality of the shows. So it will be, sound-wise, it will be excellent.
I've got a mixed feeling. I wish I had time. I didn't have time today. We're so busy, but I have a new system where I have an RL5, which I've always had. And I really need to record on the RL5 and use the wave off of that because Blab is having a hard time right now and it's hit or miss. And I have some special processes I take it through to declick it. I've been declicking 8 to 1,000 clicks out of an episode, which really helps the sound. So,
Craig, have you got, on your list? Fire away, Craig. You must have some more questions.
First one, Preston, what's your phone number again, man?
360-888-888.
888.
9545.
9545.
Okay, perfect. The show, that's a really important thing to give out for a real estate agent.
Yeah, he did. So black and white. I know we talked about there's no real difference. What about male, female? Likability, influence, anything like that. And what if pairs of husband, wife, two females, two males, as business partners? How is that play a difference in how likable they are?
The research that I dug into was primarily focused on a single person. So, how the husband and wife team play into that, nothing I saw that I can remember particularly lean towards, the attractive female necessarily got more than the attractive male. Ideally, you're getting a statistically even sample of both men and women, right? Okay. So then you get a more accurate picture. I mean, obviously, if you have guys just voting on women and women just voting on guys, it's going to be a little different. So I think you want overall how people are being, perceiving you. So
actually, as we were talking, I went through Photo Feeler and I got competent 82, likable 94, influential 83. Is that good?
That again?
Yeah.
Competent, I got ranked 82, likable 94, influential 83.
Your likable is way higher than mine.
It's a good photo, and I'm running another 10 to get a little bit deeper test on it. But I mean, Preston, is that a decent score? Or should I?
Yeah, I would think 80s and above. I mean, you're looking at, obviously, if you get 80%, your photos are testing better than 80% of the other photos that go through the site.
And folks, I'm English, so I don't care.
This was 98 on Confidence, and this was both my real estate and my vice mayor of Modesto, city of 200,000 picture for 9/11, and it's my highest ranking. But that's really important to test that stuff. That's a pretty good site. It makes sense. Yeah. Hey, the other thing you said about about a couple things about Teams is kind of interesting. I think it's on Teams. It's still better to have your own picture on your card without your group, and say part of the McDaniels team instead of having all three of just.
I would agree, and it just
website
for me whenever I've seen the whole someone sitting down, other person with the hand on the shoulder, like those types of things. It's just, you're more often than not, I would think you're not going everywhere with that person. They're not attached to the hip, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to get to know you ideally when, probably most of the time when you're giving out your card, because you're giving out your card all sorts of times, right? It's not just when you're doing a listing appointment. It's like you're at the bank, you're at the grocery store, you're out having a drink, and you run into someone, you give them your card. So they're looking at you. You bring this other person in the picture, they have no clue who it is. It's kind of like.
But there's probably, as long as you're part of a team. But on your website, I think you can have your whole team there around your support.
Yeah.
And there's a really famous guy up there, is Mark Levy, up in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
He's got a big team.
Do you know what brokerage he's with?
I like him. I followed him. He's been really on track. He was a part of Superstars.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I was on Chris Smith's podcast Blab last night of Curator fame, folks, and he was at his best. He just published his book. I ordered a copy. And it's a great book. It should be getting to me by Monday. But he was going through the sales process and he was giving some tips. And he was at his best. Always great to listen to Chris Smith, but he really was at his best last night. And he allowed me to come on the show and ask a couple of questions. And thanks, Chris, for letting me do that. So. About your sales process at all, Preston. So do you do telephone calling? How do you get your leads? Or is it mostly personal contacts and they contact you through your websites and that? How do you get the majority of your quality leads, Preston?
Yeah, so thus far it's been primarily nurturing my existing network. And I know that sounds probably fairly cliche, but partly because of my online background, and I've tried various things like the Corfax, home valuation postcards and things like that. Postcards I find can get pretty expensive before you get anyone because it's the second through the seventh contact is where you get your people to respond to you. My thing, and this goes back kind of to the Inman article and what I have on my site, is creating content that's helpful for people. And that's, I think, the most approachable way, especially nowadays, that people respond. And they're looking for a solution to their problem, whether that is how to make my photo better, or whether that is, tips to staging my home because their current broker may not be telling them enough. But yeah, providing that content, I'll tell you one thing that I'm trying in my area, and if anyone wants to steal this idea and try it in their own, I'm trying out a program that's basically a community spotlight program. And so what that is basically I'm going around to local businesses in the area that I'm really trying to build a niche in, and I'm offering them an opportunity to have a free promotion on my site where instead of just the Yelp reviews, which gets the audience's, voice, and then you have the website, which is typically carefully crafted copy and it's very marketed. You get the in-between of the owner just talking about why they started their business, what they want to bring to the table for their customers. And so I'm offering them an opportunity to have a one-on-one with me where I just ask them and give them the platform to say, why they're in business, why are they doing that? And so in turn, all I ask is that they promote the video and article that get published and give that to their network. And in doing so, they get to share a piece of content that's unique to their business. And I also get pingbacks to my website where Google gets to see that on Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media they're sharing it on, hey, this guy's relevant. This guy has authority because he's making a relationship with local businesses. That creates a web. So over time, what that does is it shows Google and other search engines that you are an authority on this geographic area.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Funny enough, on our other podcast about a year ago, we had Brian Clark of Studio Press and of Copy Blogger. He's quite famous in the content production side and using it for SEO. And he really said very similar things to yourself, Preston, about interviewing local businesses, getting them on using that for social media, YouTube, and for your website now. So I think you're definitely on the right path there because Brian's one of the sharpest marketers that I know. So I think you're totally right. What do you think, Craig, about that?
I do the same thing, Preston. I mean, I've been screaming from the rooftops for a long time. Go out, get your butt out the damn door. Go talk to another human being. Do an interview on your iPhone for 2 to 3 minutes. A little something about their business. There's another thing. If you guys, Preston, I don't know if you've heard of it or if you guys have a site called rev.com, and you can take the audio or video, upload it to Rev, and it will transcribe the audio or video into written text for about $1 a minute. So that your SEO goes through the roof for both written and videos. What we're seeing phenomenal results. We're getting a lot of good traction, but it doesn't happen right away. No. It takes time. It takes patience, but this isn't a short-term game. I mean, you're there to literally go out there with the attitude of service, to help them build their businesses. They will then in turn help you grow your business, and you get to have a heck of a good time doing it, and you get to become an aficionado on your city, like you said, Preston, because the people are watching you at 2 a.m. when Mama's in Texas and she's moving to Washington and she's watching about the schools, and you did an interview with the principal. Guess who she's going to be calling? Hey, Preston, this is Becky down in Texas. And you're like, well, hi, Becky. Very, very good stuff.
I interviewed the mayor and the congressman from our area, mayor of Reno, female. And if I knew what I knew now, I just inserted a short little commercial for Karen. You'll hear it at the end of the show. And that thing is really driving traffic. So I might go back to those old shows and stick in a commercial for Karen. I can reload the PDF up into Lipson. You can actually overload it. And that definitely, I'll tell you, it takes a little bit of work though. But if you can master a podcast in your community, or a letter or something like that and get to interview people, you're not going to start at the top. Or if you find a really good vendor like this guy who cleans floors and interview him and make him look good, that'll have some. You
can do that also if you want to build community awareness. Where else do you guys have a lot of awareness on your Facebook? So go Facebook Live. I just did a second Facebook Live today. Incredible reaction, guys. And I had bad lighting, bad sound, and it was quick and dirty. And I had just a ridiculous response. I'm going to start doing them every single night about something different. I'm going to go to realtytimes.com, pull down a little article about something that's relevant or house or something like that's relevant to the homeowners and the people in the area, and start doing a Facebook Live for 15 minutes every night. Or something like that.
Facebook Live, that just started, didn't it?
Just started, just for Apple. It's incredible to watch the interaction and see who jumps on that thing.
So, Preston, have you got any kind of thoughts around social media and how an agent should be approaching that in 2016? Got any general thoughts?
Sure, yeah. I think one of the biggest things is, because there are so many platforms, is to not only have a strategy, but block out a specific amount of time that you're going to set each day on doing your social media and having a schedule for it, being regimented about it. I mean, there's an easy tendency, myself included, to kind of shoot from the hip with social media. And that lends itself to you being inconsistent and just not being as impactful as you could be. So I'd pick the areas that you want to go into. Certainly some of the heavy hitters like Twitter and Facebook and those types of things. And then I would give a strong look at Pinterest, actually, just because Pinterest is visual. What are we in? Real estate, right? And people love sharing stuff. And my wife's been on Pinterest for like 4 years or something like that. And I noticed from day one, I'm like, what are you so addicted to? And it's like the visuals. And if you can create good visuals, share good things, now they're going to start doing promoted pins. We'll see
I think that's an excellent point, because when you look at the statistics, I haven't really utilised it myself. But when I looked at the last statistics, it's heavily geared towards women users, isn't it, Preston?
Yeah, it traditionally has been. I think that's shifting a bit because there's a lot of guy stuff on there now too. I mean, I was just researching ideas, interior design for a brick and mortar establishment. So I got on there, and my business partner and I in that were able to actually show an interior designer a bunch of references from Pinterest, and I think you could do a similar thing if you found a use for it. You're on Pinterest and you're pinning stuff, you can find uses for a lot of the imagery that you see there. And certainly real estate tip-wise, there's a ton. So what I was going to say real quick, too, about the promoted pins, similar to how any promoted post, this is rolling out and you're going to see that. I'm figuring out how to implement it into my strategy. So it's something to take a look at. Yeah.
No, I wasn't actually, the female side wasn't disparaging at all, actually, because I think I would be correct in saying this, that the woman side of a partnership is probably the decision maker about the purchase of a home. And actually, I think in some ways, Pinterest for the real estate is a little bit more understandable than Twitter. I think a lot of agents and people in the real estate industry really struggle with Twitter. Quite surprisingly struggle with it, where Pinterest in a way is a little bit understandable. Would you agree with that, Preston?
Yeah, I mean, inherently, because it's image based, right?
Yeah.
One way that I've figured out how to, and I got a tip on this from another source, but to use Pinterest in such a way where it could be helpful, there's a service you can set up, and if anyone wants to know more, they can email me, and I'll give them the link to this. But a service you can set up where you have, in quotes, moving to, relocating to, variations of that appended to your city and state. So I have moving to, relocating to Vancouver, Washington. I have a search set up for that pings Twitter every day. And if they detect a user who has put that in their tweet, I get an email with their user profile and it says new lead from Twitter.
Excellent.
And I go on right away and I say, hey, if you have any questions about real estate in Vancouver, I'm here to help. And I've had several people I've reached out to. I can't say it's like, working like gangbusters right now, but I've had people that would be otherwise lost in the oblivion of Twitter expressing their moving, and I reach out to them and they're probably kind of like, how on earth did this guy find me?
I'm convinced, though, if you a 2-person team, one person out there doing the listings, touching bases, all that stuff, and actually a processor too, and then one person just doing social media like you're talking about right there, just working on it, can tear up, because that's where you have to be available like now.
Yeah.
So what's the site? Do you have the information, that link?
Yeah, I don't have it off the top of my head.
What do you think the name of it? Twitter?
There's actually a number of services that can do.
Well, what one's he using? Let's try to find.
Yeah, so this one's called If This Then That.
Oh yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So using if this then that to do it.
You use If This Then That to basically set up a process, and it sends you back. And I'll find the exact link. It might have been on Easy Agent Pro. I forget.
What's your thoughts about Instagram? I personally have been very, how to put it, I just concentrate on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So I've really not done much, even for my clients on Instagram, which I think What's your thoughts about Instagram then?
I think it's another resource that could be used, again, if you're smart about how you spend your time and you have a real set strategy. Because, again, you get on any of these platforms, you get lost in the abyss of information and pictures. So, really having a set play on what you're going to do. I haven't personally implemented it in a, solid way yet. But here again is where, as Bill pointed out, that if you have an assistant or your teammate and they can really focus and hone in on that, I'm sure you could kill it with that, because using tags in Instagram and on any of these platforms for that matter, but especially Instagram, I've seen it in other contexts that I've used where I'm like, maybe my sphere isn't so big. I get like 10 likes, but I actually have a photo that gets 70 likes because I'm tagging it.
I also, I've been doing it for the past couple of weeks, really cleaning stuff based on some advice from Bill, actually. It's a mixture of what you said, having a regular time, but Bill was very adamant that you need checklists, and I never used to do it. And now with my social media, I'm drawing up checklists, and it's really and a time every time during the day, the same time when possible, and I have checklists. And if you're going to do this, you've got to be methodical, and checklists help you do that. Would you agree with that, Preston?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That just goes back to an echo of the point on blocking out, if it's 30, 45 minutes, and just going, I'm scheduling out this many pins, this many Facebook posts, this many tweets for the week. And more importantly, in a way, the times to send them out. Because you could be sending out all your posts at times where your audience isn't paying attention, and then there it goes, bye-bye into the black hole of social media.
I think it's a mixture of personal contact and using scheduling programs. Obviously if you could hire somebody, but I think schedulers have their place. I'm still amazed at the amount of people that don't know about Hootsuite, Buffer, Alfred, CoScheduler. There's about half a dozen popular, reasonably priced scheduling, social media scheduling tools, and they just enable you to plan out and also give you the oxygen where you can listen and respond, where you're going to get the biggest buck for your time, aren't you, Preston? But are you still surprised the amount of people that don't know about these scheduling tools? You've gone silent.
Must have hit something.
Sorry, I had to put myself on mute. Yeah, I think it's going to vary just on the tech-savvy broker, right? I mean, that's a lot of what it comes down to. I don't, if you have a really well-established referral business, you can maybe not afford to be as involved. But for, people who don't have that, it is built-in referral network where you can just live off those referrals. You have to get into it in a very serious way, and not just put it by the wayside, and have a strategy for it too. And I think that, like your checklists and those kinds of things, and what Bill has said, have a strategy. So
to kind of have you got any more additional questions, Craig?
No, I'm just listening to you guys. I mean,
hey, Jonathan, I started marketing the feed, the new feed.
Oh, great.
If you look at it, you'll notice today learning management systems popped the most popular.
Oh, yeah.
I sent out to a few agents, they sent it to other agents, and we got actually a lot of downloads today.
That was a great, and I think this one's been, to kind of finish off, Preston, the other thing because what's happened, Preston, is I got my SaaS product and I've got about a dozen beta testers, and then they asked me to start building them websites. Yeah. And that's my background, but I wasn't something I was actively looking for. But they asked me, and they were prepared to give me some money, so I thought, let's do it. But they really struggle to understand about the power of blogging and video blogging and mixing. Mm-hmm. They really seem to struggle, and it's partly maybe Northern Nevada where personal referral is still enormously variable, and there's many agents that have been here for a number of years, and they really rely on personal referrals and an excellent personal service, which is great for them. But they're finding there's more people moving in the area. There's more new agents. The competition, the variables are increasing. So they felt that they needed a web presence, but they really struggle about blogging and the importance. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of blogging and video blogging, SEO, and building up your online presence?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things to wrap your head around, if you're not used to this space, is what the ROI is. Because, if you go spend X amount of money on advertising, at least online, you can track that to a degree. But the sort of paradox there is, even if you go and do outbound advertising with paper materials to some degree, and that's what most people who've been around for a while are used to, how are you going to calculate your ROI there? I mean, unless you're very steadfast with asking, where is your referral source? Did you get me from this paper listing, this paper listing, this paper listing? So the outbound ideology of just spending money and making phone calls as well, it computes a little better. The blogging and video blogging route, it's a bigger time investment, but has way more payoff. And I think the hardest thing for anyone to really kind of truly wrap their head around is, when is this going to kick in? And when's the breaking point? And that's where the consistency comes into play, consistently doing the podcasts, doing the videos, doing the blogs. And you have to be very regimented about that. But the payoff is, you're building a web that is going to stay there, and that's not going to diminish if you stop. So if you build up to 200 articles and your web is so big, you're dominating the area in the search engines with local searches, that doesn't stop the second you stop writing. If you build your business around calling FSBOs, when the FSBOs go away, or you've called every single one of them, there goes your lead source. Maybe you build a big enough referral list, or maybe you've called so many and the response ratio is so low that is kind of what it is. So it's like, would you rather spend your time cold calling, or would you rather spend your time writing blogs where you're actually helping more people than just the one, and you're building a web that over time is going to get real big, especially if you're doing it in your area, and probably 95% of the agents aren't consistently. So
that's I think you've put that excellently, actually, Preston. And it's still surprising the amount of agents that still don't get it. The one thing I would say to you that I saw with Chris last night, I think Chris is one of the most superb online marketers in the real estate area at the present moment. His knowledge, but he combines it with a number of years in hardcore sales. And he is a real sales animal, and he knows how to bring the animal down and go for the kill and finish it off. He's a bit of a beast, as I would say. You don't mess around when he's hunting. And I think that's the skills you need. You need to be a farmer, blogging, video, but you still need the sales skills of a hunter and a finisher. And when it comes to the kill, you don't want to mess around, do you, Preston?
No, and I think playing off your analogy there, it's like, are you going for the brute force attack with the knife, or are you the silent assassin?
The danger.
Well, what I mean by that is like the hard cold call, sales call type of thing, or is it like, by the time someone is reaching out to you, or you happen to reach out to them, or you meet with them, they've read your articles, they've seen your video, and they like your photo. They all the different pieces that exist about you on the internet, they resonate with, and that's gonna, I think, say more volume in terms of the kind of hunt, as you were saying. it warms them up to you. So yeah.
I think that's a good time to end. We kind of brought.
I do have some questions I want to talk.
Oh, right. Sorry. Go on, Bill. I apologize.
I want to ask about your website. Jonathan, by the way, I saw those last couple of websites you designed. Those you sent over. They look good. I take it they're launched by now, too.
Almost. One is. The other one's still thinking about it.
Listen to your perspective, working with real estate agents, creating these websites. It'd be interesting to see what it's like sitting down. But Preston, I was looking at your site, and I really like your site. You're in the top 99 percentile, 99.1 on your. It's a modern website, a lot to it. Is that all your site, or is your broker helping you behind the scenes?
That is all my site.
I'm very, 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 very impressed. So tell us the story behind the site. How did you develop? You didn't develop this overnight.
No, definitely not. And just to be clear too, it certainly wasn't a from scratch thing, because I've been doing web stuff long enough to know you don't need to do it from scratch. So I actually worked with a theme from Easy Agent Pro, and it's the not Easy Agent Pro, Agent Evolution. And they have the equity framework. And for those who work inside of WordPress, it's similar to the Genesis framework. Mm-hmm. It's just geared for the IDX broker plugin.
Wow.
So I got that, but I had a vision for what I wanted to do with my site. And before I even touched making my site, I actually researched as much as I could the top brokerage sites in the country. And I wanted to see what they were providing. Now, because this is an agent site, I couldn't provide all the content that a brokerage is providing who's been putting stuff up for 10 years, but I could at least take the elements that I knew I could instantly provide. So I essentially got the equity framework, and then I got one of their child themes, and I started piecing it together. And my biggest thing was I didn't want it to come off as purely a search-related site. I wanted to provide good content about the area, and I wanted to make it clear that you could go to another area of my site to receive more information on an ongoing basis, in the sense of you could subscribe, those types of things. So that was kind of the gist of the approach, and it's been really fun seeing how people respond to it, and just the
Yeah, I think you've done a great job, and they're one of the better IDX plugins. They're not the cheapest. They're on their monthly charges. They're on the top end, but they're one of the more experienced. And I've worked with it, and I think you made a good choice there.
What's that running you to cost to run that plugin? And by the way, I like your testimonials; they're excellent on that.
Thank you.
Down below.
And the just real quick note about testimonials. One of the biggest things is making sure they're verified by an outside source. So that's why I mentioned they're from Zillow. I don't know if I've linked directly to Zillow yet, but I mean, that's one thing. You were asking about the plugin. I believe it's $60 a month.
Yeah,
it's around 60.59, and you go to the platinum.
I think you recommend.
I think if you go to the platinum, it's around $69-$70.
That's right.
I think the platinum is worth going to if you're really serious about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of agents do bulk at that, and it's a mistake really, because you get a lot of flexibility with it. But there's a number, but they're a good team, and it's a good solid platform. You chose well there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Do you have a link to your broker on here?
A direct link to the broker website?
Yeah.
I don't, but if you go to mportlandhomes.com, that's theirs, and I will.
Yeah, but funny enough, and I like Craig's view of this. One of the people I met through the beta testing side of Mailrite is a middle manager, and actually is the son of the owners of Dixon's in Reno, and they're looking for a full brokerage system, a customer management system, lead management. They're looking at. I won't name the company. Well, it's Boston Logic that they're leaning to. They did look at Boomtown. I have certain reservations about going to one of these providers that literally provides everything for the broker.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can be good at everything. And when you're trying to provide everything, and I understand why the brokerages are attracted to it, because they think they get a total solution, one solution from one vendor. But when they work out that they're really in time, energy, plus money, the resources they're really tying themselves to one boat, really. What's your thoughts about that, Preston?
Oh man, absolutely. In fact, going back to the, I guess, research phase, one of the biggest things I recognized from any of these services, they range, right? They range from probably $250 a month all the way up to, I know,
2,500, 3,000.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, here's the deal. Do you want to own your asset, or do you want to be beholden to a monthly payment? IDX, that's hard to get around. Unless you're going to pay someone to develop an SQL solution to pull in all the IDX data and yada, 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 tech speak. But the content-wise, now, if you lease a site, you're leasing. That's essentially what you're doing. You're leasing a website for the period that you want to pay for it. That's why I went with Agent Evolution. And I think actually, to the point of your business, Jonathan, like if you could actually provide a really solid solution for build outs and then offer a maintenance program, but they own the site because they have a self-hosted WordPress, that's actually an interesting idea to maybe mop up, where people don't realize you're getting taken just because you have to pay to keep your site alive.
Well, funny enough, the deal is because they didn't want to deal with the hosting. I'm hosting it on Digital Delirium, Digital Ocean, but the game is that they get a backup to Dropbox, which they own, and there's a recovery plugin with a serial number, with the database, with the assets, and it's if they're fed up, they can go somewhere else and get somebody to set it up. So I'm not. So I'm running it for them, but they're not. I'm not holding them. Oh, I'm sorry, folks, but I'm not holding them by the balls. If they want to go off somewhere. And I don't think anybody's going to commit as much as I've done to try. I've actually because they're beta testers and they've really been hammering away at MailRite. There was a lot of hand holding with them because they really had no idea about what content. They didn't have the insights that you've got. So I really had to give them a lot of advice and pushing them to provide some content and get the job done. Otherwise, it would have gone on forever. But, I agree with you. They don't really, it's a bit of insanity for a brokerage to allow it outside. There's partnerships, isn't it? It's a bit like the agent-broker relationship. But to allow an outside company to totally control fundamentally your online lead generation process is a form of madness, really, isn't it, Preston? I feel.
Well, it just to me gets expensive to a degree long term. If you think about, say, when you spend $1,000 a month, okay, $12,000 over a year, $24,000 over 2 years. Let's say you add in some other content upgrades they do, so $30,000 over 2 years. Why don't you just pay someone to make a great site and then use the rest of that money to have them do a recurring content plan for you?
Yeah.
And then you own the stuff.
Yeah, what I suggest, and Curator, they are kind of hybrid. They're following the model, which we don't like. But what they do is they use different bits of software in their package. But what I said to Dixon is, look at WordPress, but if the customer relation lead center, look at Follow Up Boss. Because I've looked at a number and there's a couple of others that I really like. But Follow Up Boss have been in the market for 3 years and I've used it. And I've used it setting it up for agents and brokers. and I haven't come across anything better. It's a pretty slick customer relation management system that's been designed for brokerages and power agents. And the API system works lovely with WordPress. And I don't think you could do a lot better. And you're just buying into that piece.
Who's that, Jonathan?
It's a company called Follow Up Boss. Mm-hmm. It is the best customer relation system aimed at real estate.
A CRM, okay.
Yeah, it is the best on the market, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm actually doing a little show on a special because I have to do a filler on CRMs and email management and all that. Just me.
Yeah, I don't know what, Craig, have you used that at all, seen it? Because I think it is the best. What do you think?
No, I've seen it. We haven't used it yet, but I mean, everything that you guys are talking about is very interesting.
CoreLogic.
A lot of it. Hold on, Bill. A lot of it is, like you said, people don't know about it, but that's why I have notepads like this that are constantly filled with new sites. And just talking with you, Preston, tonight, I want to with the SQL, and that's pretty interesting. And then the photo feeler. I mean, all these different things. I mean, the average agent isn't on here, and so they aren't getting this kind of content, which is a bummer because it's all here. It's all of us just chatting.
This is super techie tonight. This is like, you could come on. You know what, Jonathan? You need to come on, Preston. You need to come on WP Tonic, which is.
Are you coming on? Are you coming on Saturday, or are you going to do? Are you going to do a runner, Preston? We scared you off.
No. I love talking about this kind of stuff because it's ultimately it's my passion behind real estate.
Try and join us. I'll send you the link and try and join us at 9:00 on Saturday.
But you need to come on as a guest, even on this, as a featured guest, because you are. We've seen a lot of Jonathan. I've seen a lot of real estate agents in my life. I've been a broker for 25 years at brokerages, and I know that Greg has too, and his dad. But I'll tell you what, you are by far the most sophisticated agents I've come across in a long, 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 long time. Long time.
Thank you very much.
By the way, CoreLogic, look at CoreLogic. That's Chase. I can't imagine how much they spend. Every agent pays $50 to be privileged in CoreLogic, and it's like a Microsoft.
Yeah, it's pretty dated.
Friggin' exchange something, and I had.
But what you got to understand, Bill, with that system is that's probably only 5 years old, and it's they're probably in a very similar situation to what you were when you had your Exchange server, which 5 years ago was the top technology, but now most people in that size company would not want their own Exchange server and have to maintain it. They would go to the cloud, but that system really cost them a hell of a lot of money, Bill.
Oh, it did. I know these are expensive systems back in the day.
They've still got to use it for a couple of years before it gets full, their investment. But that's the problem. But I'm not a great fan of Boomtown. I'm not that they don't do the job. But I think you choose the particular, because of Follow Up Boss, I really don't see the point of building a customer relation system for real estate when you've got such a superb piece of software there already that has a really mature API so you can communicate with your website. I really don't see the point. And they're quite prepared to do you a great deal with your broker, and then having your website owned by yourself and having some of the other mechanisms owned, and bringing consultants on an individual basis when you need those skills, rather than paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which I think after a certain period of time, you're not really getting your investment back, really. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that all goes back to the point of you looking at your long-term expenditure. A lot of those sites are geared for outbound marketing. So, okay, yeah, you have the $1,000, $2,000 a month, but then you also have what you're spending on advertising to drive people back to your site. So real quick, though, I wanted to touch on something that made me think of this. I wrote an article on Medium, and I don't know if you guys ever use Medium.
Yeah, I've used it a bit.
really cool for seeing just articles about all sorts of stuff.
That link, I got the Medium, the full link didn't get in there for some reason.
Yeah, you have to highlight the whole thing, copy and paste it. But I wrote it back in November, and it's basically called Technology Sin, or the Ignorance of Slack, but more importantly, I guess, Technology Sin. So I tried to find an actual online definition for it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to coin a definition for it. And basically, I defined it as the transgression of the law of technology to keep up to date on current technology trends and applications. And 2, failure to use proper applications and provide support for company employees. So that was my opinion of what technology sin is. But it happened because of a whole experience I had at a company where it was like, I realized first day there, they were kind of like, 10 years old in their technology. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is driving their whole mentality about how they're doing things. And it's a similar thing when it comes to agents, right? It's like, I had an agent or a broker at one point trying to push Google spreadsheets on me. I'm like, I get that, but it's not automated. And if you don't build that automation in now, or when you're starting out, then you're going to get so busy that you're like, well, now I'm really busy. Let me go, change my CRM around. That's not going to happen.
Well, it's totally researched that if you're buying online leads, and obviously we've discussed this with Craig, there's different companies that provide different quality. Normally you've got to spend more money per lead to get better quality. But let's say you're just going to the general online lead. The speed of if you don't have a proper automated system and thought about it, how the long, you've got about 5 minutes, because especially if those leads are going to be sent out to various people, the one that has the most effective automated system, the one that contacts that individual the quickest and has a consistent pattern of touching that person is the one that's going to win the game.
Yeah.
And if you're a brokerage and you really don't understand the fundamentals of the game, you're going to get freaking slaughtered by the competition. Would you agree with that, Preston?
That would certainly be my summation, and that's partly why I changed to the brokerage I did, is because I saw, they had essentially reverse engineered the brokerage. It started out as a technology company, and then it morphed into media services for agents. And then they said, we have services that kill other brokerages in the area. Why don't we start a brokerage?
That's Redfin. Redfin did that.
Yeah, Redfin, yeah.
14 years ago, yeah. And now they're more like a traditional brokerage with high-tech stuff and systems.
Yeah, they've gone a bit off key. They're
the first people to map listings. It wasn't that long ago.
But actually, Chris Smith talked about this last night, that fundamentally Redfin and some of the other, they literally slaughtered the market because it was pretty easy. Not easy, but now it's got a little bit harder and you need a little bit more knowledge. And he explained it quite coherently. But yeah, I think if you don't understand the fundamentals of the game and and systemize what you can, but realize that the fundamentals of real estate is person to person. And if that wasn't the case, it would have been totally automated by now anyway. And it is the biggest purchase that most people will have in their lifetime. And the fundamentals, necessities of an effective agent isn't going to change anytime soon. Would you agree with that, Preston?
You said, the fundamentals of, being a good agent. I would agree. Yeah, it's still going to be a, face-to-face. In fact, I'll give you guys a heads up on another article that I'm writing for Inman, and it's going to be a sort of speculative piece on seriously how virtual reality may totally change our industry in 10 to 15 years.
I agree with that.
And all the way
this year.
Yeah, and all the way down. I think there's a lot of legal stuff that we're going to run into with VR actually playing a role, and people trying to buy homes possibly sight unseen when they can't do that maybe.
Yeah.
But, if you imagine for a second this kind of vignette of someone putting on their headset and meeting with their agent, and the agent just uploads homes for them to tour at their house. And at the end of it, they meet with their agent again and say, I like house number 5, make an offer for this much, because that's what the digital, pricing system told me to buy it at. And it's a very fixed system. And you're simply a facilitator as an agent.
Yeah, I don't really see it for I personally, but also it's age. If I was buying a house, which is going to be my biggest investment, I'll probably utilise one of those tools to kind of narrow down the ones that I'm really seriously interested in. So I don't have this endless tour of most of the places that I'm not really, and also it's a total waste of time for the agent. So probably a tool like that would enable you to concentrate on the ones that you're really interested in. But I would still want to go and see physically the real ones that I'm really, really interested in. But I could see it being a great time saver, because I think it's disheartening for the agents and for the people to keep looking at these frigging places, and most of them you're not interested in. So, and must be a total time killer for the agents having to be a tour guide.
That's why listings are better.
Yeah.
List.
Well, I'm gonna go, Preston. I'm blabbed out. My voice.
We blabbed a lot. Hey, Preston, what's your email? Drop your email in there. Your best email, if you could.
Yeah, sure. It's
please, if you can, please join us at 9 a.m. on Saturday. I'll send you the link.
And this is a place Greg's been for a long time.
And hopefully we can continue have a good geek out on WordPress. You seem up for it, and I think it's been a great show. What do you reckon, Craig? Do you think it's been pretty good stuff?
Very educational. It's a lot of high level information. It's going to be a lot of things that a lot of agents aren't going to comprehend or be able to follow. But at this level that we're talking at, I'm just sitting here just listening and hanging out.
WP Tonic, gets 200 to 250 WordPress experts. I know this for a fact. Listening to the show each week. These are high level WordPress folks that listen to these shows, and you could fit right on that, because what I think is good that you bring that field operation into the technology that you can bridge that really well. Not a lot of people can.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, funny enough, he won't be a verbal enough. Oh, my brain's gone too much. I was talking to a top SaaS developer, and he runs a couple of successful SaaS companies. And fundamentally, the use of a customer relations system, utilizing online services to cleanse lists, to get the proper list in startups, as much as in real estate, in brokerages, the fundamentals are really very similar when it comes to technology, list building, list cleansing, consistent outreach, and customer relation systems. They all kind of, when it gets to the fundamentals, they all merge.
Yeah,
sure.
See you later. I've got to go.
Okay, go on, Josh. Let me hang you up.
My voice.
Bring everybody up. Kick off. I could kick one off. Greg, let me make you a host for a second. I didn't make you a host. It's good to be a host. I think on Blab, you want to make a host, and Blab is changing every day. I try to stay as current as possible on Blab. Good practice is to be a host, and I'm going to kick you. Anything else, Greg, before I kick you off?
No.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Hey, Preston, I'll reach out to you, man.
Hey, absolutely, yeah.
Greg, on what's happening in the Bay Area? We didn't really catch up. Anything this week?
In what aspect?
Just real estate. Anything surprising happening?
We're seeing a little bit of a softening in the market. It's interesting, the different price points. I'm pulling up data. That's why I've been so quiet for the radio show I'm going on here in about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Just kind of what the pricing is doing. We're seeing a lot of people move out to the Central Valley, to lesser desirable areas. Our turnover rate. Our turnaround in inventory. We went from like a little less than a month Bay Area wide. Now we're 2 months, so we're seeing more properties at the markets. I don't think the buyers are ready for that yet. They're still seeing the pricings of when the inventory is low and the sellers are beating up on them. Now we're seeing the buyers are just kind of like, I'm not ready for you to slap me around just yet. I'm going to wait for those prices to come correct.
I was in building for 10 years. The biggest deviation, where the largest profits were made out in those commute areas, because they went from like 50,000 an acre to 200,000 acre very, very fast when the market starts moving. And
it's doing the same thing. I mean, I'm doing numbers. Bay Area average price is $775.
I'm talking about land though.
Manteca's $399.
Yeah, you have a similar thing. I think that you're going to see out here, Bill, because Portland area and Pacific Northwest in general is like people are for some reason moving here.
Portland's
in droves.
I know Portland well because I studied urban planning and growth. I'm civil, and Portland has the limit lines, the boundaries where you cannot build. There are limits to how much you can build in Portland.
Right, and so you have across the river where I am, people are seeing that you can live in Washington with no income tax, and you can go shop in Portland, but. I have a lot of people actually asking me for land right now.
Yeah, land's where you make a lot of money. I did a lot of land work.
And so I'm trying to do partnerships with. I'm working with a DARE right now, and then hopefully partner with other builders to, just help bridge that gap of they want land, but they don't just want land; they want to build. So what does that look like?
I made a lot of money because we have these 3-acre parcels out in Central Valley in the areas I was from that are really nice quality of life, horse property stuff. I started showing people they could get 40 acres, contract out their almonds or walnuts for just a little bit more and get amazing cash flow. And I started doing that, and I did a lot of that. I converted people from 3 acres to 40 while the market was going crazy because we literally didn't have 3-acre parcels to build on because of the expansion. The people wanted the horse property where it might be. And that's what moves really strong. And then the single acre, which is like build 5 houses per acre, I saw that go from 50,000 to 200,000 an acre, literally in a year. That's a lot of money. So when you leverage that with an option or something of that nature, huge money. And then the houses, of course, doubled. So when let's say you do the improvements, have a lot, and your lot's worth, let's say, 50,000, just the lot itself after improvements are put in. But
gentlemen, I'm out of here. I got to jump. I'll see you guys later.
That's going to happen in your area. And that's going to happen, Greg. That's going to happen in Central Valley. If what you said is happening right now, that's where you get the huge wealth is made on that community.
It is. I'm going to jump, gentlemen. Have a good one.
Hey, Preston,
Very nice speaking with you.
I should have thrown him off. I meant to throw him off. Hey, if you can come back on for a second, let me throw you off because sometimes it's better for the host to throw him off. It can get stuck. The blab has been stuck in limbo sometimes if you don't throw a host off. I just made a host. I need to throw him off. So let me throw. You're a host. See the little H up there?
Yeah.
That means I've made you a host, and you'll get an extra feed, which is good today. You'll get this feed.
Okay, excellent.
He's really gone. I know he has to go. I wish but he should be off. If he's completely off, it recycles in a period of time. Hey, well, thanks. You're really impressive. How long have you been in real estate?
I grew up around real estate. I grew up around family that were developers, commercial and residential and design. I started a company about 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah, with my dad, actually we were starting to do stuff in residential and commercial. I stepped back from it. And then I got my broker's license in Washington late last year to really fully push into the retail side of, buying and selling for homes. So, so I've been around it my whole life in varying aspects. And as of late last year, it was really a more full push into the retail side.
Have you built websites for other agents?
I haven't, and that's something I've thought about.
Because you have a $10,000 website.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's usually 10 to 30 grand was usually what people would spend when I did other sites. So, if that turns into something where people see the value in it and I can help guide them, that's something I would love to help them on. For now, it's like, rolling over my skill sets into my own business and just hoping to push that as far as I can go.
Your expertise would be a partner in a brokerage and, a trainer partner and developing the backside of it and a brokerage, a major brokerage,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, one of my passions, again, obviously it's technology, but also having my ear to the ground on what technology, like identifying if a technology I think is good or not. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say I'm anything special. It's just that I've tried out so many freaking platforms. I was trying out video platforms before YouTube that were competing with YouTube. I'll just put it that way.
That's crazy.
How old are you? I'm 28.
Okay. As you started, you're really ahead of your time. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I started making GeoCities websites and pretty early on in like elementary school. So I mean, I've got a pretty good grasp on it, and just testing stuff, seeing what works or not, and I love being able to latch on to a good technology, and if it's good, I'll evangelize it. But I'm using Top Producer right now. I'm not entirely happy with it. I think they stopped updating it about 5 years ago.
I bought that so many times.
Oh, guy. And,
I bought it over the years. I bought one was like 1.0 and 1.2 or whatever.
I went to go export a form. I had to export a form. And they gave me 2 document formats. It was like ASP and something else. Like, you guys realize this isn't even freaking usable. Usable, yes. Like, could you put it out and someone will use it? Is it functional and like really, ring bells with people? No, it's not. So I'm like, you guys, it's just amazing. So there's, I think, some great stuff out there. I love talking about the technology side of things. And I just noticed someone here. Did you see Tony Gwynn had a question about upcoming move? Want to ask a question about the best way to do it? It's pretty far.
To buy a house?
Yeah, he said, I have a question about an upcoming move. Wanted to call in, ask a question about the best way to do it. It's pretty far. Can I call in? I'm not sure about buying a home in an area I've never been to.
Yeah, he can come up if he wants to. By the way, I was in Afghanistan. I was a reservist, civil engineer. And I've seen young soldiers with a lot of money, officers I'm working with, buy a house basically. Maybe they had a wife or a parent or child, or somebody go look at it for them. But they found it online, when they're in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to trust the person quite a bit.
But a condo is like condos and stuff like that. A condo is a condo. You can get comps, and somebody goes there and says, yeah, the carpet's decent, and it's a good view.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood.
And, that's where I think Google, if you do Street View in Google, right, you can get a pretty good idea for how dilapidated or not, or how kept or not homes are. Right?
We still tell people to go Sunday morning early and go walk the street, go look at the street before you buy it, because that's when you have the cars. If there's any problems, it's Sunday morning. If there's like a party house or
good, excellent point. And go at night, right?
You go at different times. You should go all different times, but Sunday morning to me is one of the most critical times to go. So Tony is saying, not sure about. Let me look. By the way, if you go, this is your first time on Blab, right?
Yeah.
See down below, you got question. You can put a question there.
Oh yeah, the I think backslash.
And I can go here. I can put the question up right here.
/question. There you go. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, you just put a question up there, and that sort of thing. It's fun to listen to Jonathan because he had no real estate background. He's a SaaS. He's a developer, but he has really learned a lot about real estate this year. He developed his product without knowing about real estate, and his first links. What he has, one thing that I really like, and I wish he would develop this as a marketer this way. He can populate both Twitter and Facebook, your Facebook professional site, with a download, and that's like a daily download, and that's so important. And he could get away with charging $7 or $8 just as a subscription on just that product, because if you can just get, like, a real estate agent can just get a professional Facebook page, that's a great start. And you could charge for setting it up and then get hooked. And that's, if they just do that, that's a start, and they'll start populating their Facebook, a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I'm going to look more into his program. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'm actually betaing another platform for a friend of mine called Zepity, and seeing how that works out. And that's kind of supposed to be an end-to-end transactional thing.
Well, have you looked at many let me pull up some notes. I do have some tech questions to ask you. 2 seconds.
Yeah. I'm
going to do a quick show on email, just email for anybody. I just, after about a year and a half, 18 months, I'm leaving Infusionsoft.
Yeah, Infusionsoft. I've had lots of experience.
I spent a lot of time learning Infusionsoft.
Yeah, and that Infusionsoft
It's not current. There's other things that are a lot less expensive that are better now.
Well, you know what happened? Their CEO changed hands from the guy who started it to someone else. And I think at that point, you started to see a market change in the technology here. Real quick, Karen St. Louis, I imagine that's the STL.
Yeah, I know Karen. She's been on timelines. She's been on an interview.
She made a really good point about, going and renting for a bit first to see which area you really like. So.
If you're new into town, that's not a bad way to do it. It's just rent for a while. I've done it. It's hit and miss. It depends. If you're an investor, I say go buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath brick house and live in it for a while and rent from yourself and then keep it, because I'm a big believer in keeping property if you're going to stay in the town for a while. If you can afford it, start with a small house and live in there, then you're comfortable. Because I think we are in a trend that's moving up and rates are low. So I'd buy a smaller maybe condo or something and then convert it to a rental. And I've done real well over a lifetime. If you buy some rentals, 3 or 4 in your life, you're in great shape. And when you get older.
Yeah. That's a great point.
It's a great formula if you have a traditional corporate job or whatever it might be. And it's nice to be in the same town. I do have, let me hit you on some things real fast because you're not knowledgeable. I'm kind of late and I got to get the show. My next show I'm going to write. What have you looked at other email platforms? For example, Infusionsoft is a CRM. It's an EMAP. It's an e-commerce site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking at. I can go back to my notes.
I've used quite a few, and I've looked into a lot more.
What have you looked into?
Oh man, I wish I could tell you all of them off the top of my head. I know it sounds like a bit of a lame answer. I just, I'll come across them because someone sends them to me. I get it on an email list. I'll go on. Product Hunt is really cool, actually.
By the way, I found it. We've done 4 months of study on e-learning.
Okay, yeah, the LMS. Yeah, that's what you were talking about earlier.
I got a great plugin. It's a freebie right now. It's an amazing plugin. Is from Learning. It's an Lifter LMS.
Lifter.
It's a no-brainer. Just test it out. You can, as a real estate agent, you'll be able to jump right on that Lifter LMS. That's a hack I can give you right now. Lifter LMS, it's a free plugin. It's an amazing plugin, and you can watch the little tutorial. You can build a course in one evening and host it yourself on your own site, and you can even charge for it, PayPal, or integrate it with Stripe, or give it to your clients. Here's a course about doing a house, buying a house or something.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, and they got Juice Duvac, whatever, like Yoast.
Oh, Yoast, yeah.
That's a good.
That's 4 months of research to find that plugin. I didn't find it. Guess what? I did not find that plugin from a WordPress quote unquote expert that we were around. We interviewed the very top WordPress people in the world, and Chris Lemma wrote it up. So, sort of secret, but I didn't find it from all my expert. I'm the business guy among a lot of programmers.
Okay.
A lot of real code programmers. These guys are so down in the code that they're not looking at what's happening.
Right. They're like this.
Yeah,
right?
Code guy. Do not talk to a high-end WordPress guy is not who you want building your WordPress site. You don't want a coder building your WordPress site if you're a real estate agent.
Man, I've always said this because I just had a good friend of mine. I've known him for 13 years or something like that. He taught me music theory. Amazing musician. And he called me the other day. He's like, I want to turn all this material I have into a good, learning platform. And, one of the most common things, and you pointed out, is a lot of people say, I need to find a developer. It's like, developers are great at doing developing in the sense of writing code. They're not project managers.
Yeah, Jonathan's got 3 or 4 developers that work with him in SaaS. He doesn't actually do it. He doesn't do the development. So.
Right. So, and that's, I think, a key thing a lot of people miss is, and this has been my specialty for a while, is project managing. So being able to take, okay, here's what the client needs, right? And here's how to translate that into what you need to code this. Designer, you need to design this. Here's the structure of the site. So, it sounds like that's, kind of something that
there's especially training that called a mush or mash or whatever it is, a masher.
What, sorry?
Musher. There's especially training now in the corporate world for program managers for developing programs and code and all that, called mashers, mushers, whatever it is.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, is that like a form of PMI or?
Yeah, project management for just developing software.
Okay. Yeah.
They sort of look at it. They come in. They bring these guys in. The project managers bring these guys in to really dig in for like 3 or 4 months and figure out what's going on and how to expedite it.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great point.
I'm really torqued off. I'm trying to find. Let me just look at one minute. I hate to have to go up on my. I have Timelines of Success, which is a really old it's one of my oldest sites. I need to get it off this platform. I've got 3 platforms that I host on, and I got to find this from yesterday. That's LMS, but Joshua Millage used to do Infusion Cast, which is all about Infusion software. There's a podcast just around that. And now he's gone to a new, I hope I put it on here. Dang it. I can't remember the name of I might have to listen to my own podcast. So I got to write this tonight. But there's so many email systems out there. It's critical. But I'm not sure that email building a list is important for real estate agents, but I think a farm list and a personal list, you can almost do that on Gmail. I know you want to automate things, but for the typical agent, though.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's such a spectrum of ways you can go about doing things. And there's always new technology, and it can get like really head spinning in a way to look at all this. So, I think a lot of it to me is like, okay, at the end of the day, what do you want your business to look like, in 5 or 10 years, and why not set that up for success now?
Yeah, well, it's going to change. The thing is, your blog takes time to migrate to start populating. Yeah. Hey, look at Active Campaign was the I'm probably going to go to this. Campaign. Have you heard of Active Campain?
I've seen this. This is like very affordable, I believe.
It looks more powerful than you don't. And the other thing too is you don't want a merchant account. You don't want to mix a merchant account in with this. You want to just use Stripes and have this separate. You don't want to use merchant accounts or changing.
Right. This looks nice.
$9 and it can do. I mean, I was having a problem with API integration with Infusionsoft on stuff.
I can't imagine them being around for too much longer, or their let's put it this way, their customer acquisition rate. I know they got the guy from Shark Tank, Damon, to be a spokesman, but
have you played around with Opt-in Monster?
Oh yes, I have used Opt-in Monster.
You use it on your site at all?
I do. Yes,
it's $100. We're talking about the best. See, we're jointly now looking at the very best stuff. You and I mean,
this is Opt-in Monster is great. I think that's got to be the best straight pop up tool.
The Infusionsoft are scared to death with Opt-in Monster and people.
I just have it as a post opt-in thing right now. I mean, here's one of the things I'm doing. I'm using something like Opt-in Monster. Drive traffic to a page that is highly targeted for a specific message, and then give them a pop-up that's highly targeted for a specific message, and then split test that one. If you want to get real crazy. Oh, at the moment,
I've got 20 plus.
Yeah, ones that I personally manage. I think I only have a handful right now because I've killed off.
I don't kill off anything, but I'm using Jetpack to manage some of these too.
I still do a lot of, I'll still do a little bit of
management
for other people. I just go in the back end. Nothing.
Jetpack will do a lot.
Really
Jetpack
crazy.
will monitor if something's going wrong for pretty cheap, almost free.
Oh, okay, yeah. Jetpack was made by Automatic,
the last
right?
6 months they have that, so it really helps a lot. That's how I can do 20 websites.
That's probably something I would go to. I think if you can, anytime you can do a multi-site install,
I use Cloudflare.
Is fantastic. Cloudflare, yep.
You got some time. If somebody starts attacking you, it's going to give you some time to react.
One of the things that I've, become a pretty big stickler about, at least for clients, is, security and doing SSL implementation.
Free now.
That's where I found it hard actually for if you're going to do IDX integration, most of them want a subdomain, and they don't play nice with SSLs. So if you're switching back and forth between, your main domain, the subdomain, and it's on and off that SSL, that could throw it off. But Max CDN is another good one, doing it with a SSL. And it's just, it's another content delivery network. Will really kind of up your speed if you're using an SSL, because especially if you're using SSL, slow down, your site, because you're using more resources. But my for SSLs and the security route, if you can get an extended validation certificate, I would do that all day long, because it's the most vetted form of certificate. And there is some. It could be anywhere from, because you usually want a multi-domain one, because you need that for the CDN, because you have another push network. It could be anywhere from like $400 to $1,000.
For your money, son.
It depends on who's issuing it, and I've tried to compare them, and I go, oftentimes they'll look very similar. There's like a $400 difference. I go, I don't know where they're getting these numbers from, but. I got to jump off, Bill. I would love to chat more, but yeah, I'm working on that right now. So, I have one.
You just go out. That's a face-to-face. That's where you just, keep your data. And that's where we don't talk so much technology, is you only get your email and just relationships. Anyway, sorry.
And that's, no problem. I was going to say real quick, that's where the community spotlight piece is coming in for me, because I'll go and visit a business and actually hang around it a bit, and then
we stumbled on this podcasting right now, like in the interviews, and they're starting to pay off. But it's like a year later.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's a lot of work, but hey, I appreciate you guys very much having me on.
Some morning. I think you'll like that. We actually review websites, and you're very technically savvy, and it's a pleasure to have your eye and your concepts and understanding in this space. It's really good, that in between.
Great. I appreciate it. And you guys being able to, talk the talk more or less is great.
I'm going to throw you off. Shoot down to you. This first time on Blab, right? Congratulations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, thanks everybody. Got a lot of work to do tonight. And it's good seeing you, Karen. Hope everything is well. It was a really good discussion. And I had a heck of a day today. Karen, FYI, no one's here, but stuff that I did last year, and just with Blab and doing a podcast, literally got a $1.5 million listing, and another listing was taken tonight. That's separate, but it all feeds on stuff. We've had 2 transactions this year so far because of the podcast. So it is paying it a little bit. Take care. See you guys later.